Begin with the very next quality of love, which says this: charity/love doth not behave itself unseemly. Okay? You got it? Love doth not behave itself unseemly. Now, what does that mean? So, a seam is like a pattern. You might think of it as like order or structure, or the way things are supposed to be. A seam, like in a garment. And so, what does it mean for something to be unseemly? It means an imperfection in the pattern. So the idea is that love is never inappropriate, that love is never impolite, and love is never unthoughtful. Those three basic ideas. The idea of being rude or uncouth or unthoughtful. That's the basic concept of love doth not behave itself unseemly. See, to a very large extent, culture dictates a little thing called manners. And as Christians, we should be very much all about manners. As Christians, we should be very much all about following the rules of propriety in our society. Christians should be all about manners and politeness and civility, and we should not be saying things inappropriate or disrespectful. Pastor Steve, I once said something very impolite. I once said something very inappropriate. I didn't realize how inappropriate it was at the time. See, I was a child, and I said something very disrespectful to my teacher, but I didn't realize just how disrespectful it was. See, do you want to know what I said? I said, my teacher was like, "Philip, bring me that paper right now." She was wanting me to bring her the thing. And this is what I said. This is all it was. This is so innocent coming from a little kid. This is what I said. "I'm coming. Hold your horses." That day, I learned a valuable lesson. A child does not get to tell his teacher to, quote, hold her horses. And I got in big trouble. So you see, that's the idea. As Christians, we should strive to be respectful, courteous, charming, so to speak. So there are two different groups that we tend to be the most rude to. And they are those we are most familiar with and the stranger. The two groups we tend to be the most rude with are the two ends of the spectrum. The familiar, meaning basically family and those you're closest to, and the stranger. And you see, in both cases, we're making the same mistake, taking them for granted. Let's start with the familiar, okay? When your family, they have to love me. What choice do they have, right? She's married to me. He's married to me. They're my mom and dad. I'm their kid. She's my sister. He's my brother. They're my kids. I'm their parent. Ain't nothing changing, none of that. And so we take that security and we milk it for all it's worth. They gotta love me, so I might as well be a big fat jerk. I mean, I know we don't say that, but you see, we take advantage of the fact that they have to be there for you, they have to love you because they're family, and therefore we feel at ease being rude to them. Now, as opposed to the situation in which ain't nothing put in stone yet, and so you have to be on your very best behavior, and I'm speaking, of course, of your very first date. The time in which you went on your first date ever with a person. On that very first date, you're like, please and thank you, and you're so polite, and you're holding the door, because you can't take anything for granted. Now, here is my challenge to you. My impossible challenge, but my challenge nonetheless. This is what our attitude should be, okay? Every single solitary day, you are on a first date with the whole world. That's how you should think of it. Every single solitary day of your life, you should view yourself as being on a first date with the whole wide world. You see, every moment of every day, you make a choice to be warm or a choice to be cold. Jesus Christ was never grumpy. Jesus Christ was never rude. There were times in which he was stern, but he was never grumpy just because he didn't feel like being nice or respectful. And then there's the other end of the spectrum. We tend to not be gracious toward strangers. Let's put this in the context of a stranger that is providing some sort of a service to you. The cashier at the grocery store, or the person working at the fast food restaurant waiting on you. Because we don't know these people, and because these people are there to provide a service for us, we tend to view this as nothing other than strictly a business transaction, not between two human beings who have souls, but just a service being rendered. And there's something we have to remember. That person servicing you at the gas station or the fast food restaurant or any store or anywhere, that person is not a vending machine. A vending machine doesn't have a soul. If you put your quarters in a vending machine and it doesn't give you the drink you want, you feel free to say, "You stupid hunk of junk," okay? If you wanted to kick that thing or something. See, the vending machine has no soul. It's just there to provide a service, and if it doesn't provide the service, then it's useless, because that's all it exists for. But that's not the case with that person serving you wherever you are, whatever business you are patronizing. That person is not a vending machine. What's happening here is beyond strictly a business transaction. It is a business transaction, but it's also two souls that God loves having, however brief, a relationship with one another. Here's what I want you to do. How would you talk to that person if that person at that moment were standing in your living room? If that person, that stranger, was standing in the middle of your living room, at that moment you're speaking to them about whatever business transaction or whatever, would that alter how you would be talking to them? Would the setting alter how you would be relating to that person? I submit to you that I think it probably would. So wherever you go, as you're dealing with people, as you're talking to people, try to picture that person as if this conversation were happening on the couch in your living room. See, the term hospitality which is mentioned 6 times in the New Testament, comes from the Greek word philoxenos, which means philo, love, xeno, foreign or strange. It means love of strangers. That's what it means. Love of people that you do not know and people who might be very different from you is the very meaning of hospitality, philoxenos, love of strangers. Now, I know that we tend to think of hospitality strictly in the context of inviting people into your home, but which is why I just said, picture them in your living room wherever you go, because you got to realize hospitality doesn't only happen in your home. It's simply philoxenos. It's love of stranger. Hospitality goes with you everywhere that you go. So everywhere you go, every second of the day, in whatever you are doing, Try to be thoughtful. Try to be considerate of other people. And I was speaking of business. So one way you do that is clean up after yourself. Wherever you go, try to be a good steward of your part of that business relationship and try to not make life harder for anybody else. Don't be rude and selfish. Now, I'm going to give you just a couple of examples of how to do that. But I want you to understand that these couple of random examples, I'm not just harping on these two things. It's not about these two things. It could be anything. It just all boils down to the essence of being thoughtful about how and what you do has an effect on other people and being thoughtful of them. So don't throw ice in the trash can, okay? When you're finished drinking your drink and your cup is full of ice, I know you just want to throw the whole cup of ice in the trash can. Don't you realize that ice is going to melt? And then there's going to be water in the bottom of the trash bag when someone has to empty the trash later? So try to take a moment, step outside, throw your ice out into the grass. Then throw your empty cup into the trash can. See? That's what I mean. Just being thoughtful. And if you're in a setting in which there's no grass around, you find a potted plant to throw your ice into. And yes, one time I made the mistake of doing that and then realizing it was an artificial plant. So that's not going to be good. But my heart was in the right place. That's the thing. My heart was in the right place. Okay, now here's another one, okay? So you go to the grocery store and you take your shopping cart full of groceries out to your car and you put all of your bags of groceries into the back of your car. You shut the door. You're ready to go. You look around and the nearest cart return is 2 miles that way. So now the question is, what are you going to do? And you know what you could do? You know what a lot of people do? You just leave it right there. Just leave it in the middle of the space. Just leave it in the middle of the parking lot. Oh, that's going to make everyone else's life better. Just leave it right in the middle of the thing. Oh, I know. I see you. I see you. I know it. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think propping it up on the little curb makes all the difference, right? But if you prop it up on the little curb there, then it can't roll down the way. No, bad, no. Take it to the cart return. That's what you need to do. It piles up in the parking lot. It takes up all the parking spaces. Always take your shopping cart back to the cart return. I'm sorry. Over the course of my life, I have worked at Publix, Food Lion, Kroger, and Walmart. So this is personal, okay? Okay? Now, look, the two things I've just mentioned are just random things. The point is the same no matter how you apply it. Be thoughtful and be considerate wherever you go. Because if you're ever uncouth or inappropriate, if you're ever cold or insensitive, see, I know how easy it is to always have the attitude, that's their job. That's what they get paid to do. You're right. That's true. But you know what? It is not your job to make their job harder. That's not your job, okay? So if you're ever cold or uncouth or inappropriate or insensitive, it really all boils down to a lack of love. It really does. Because love doth not behave itself unseemly. Okay? Now, next one. Love seeketh not her own. Life is only worth living when life and love is spent for others. See, only living for others will bring you true happiness. Living for yourself will bring moments of happiness, but it won't bring you satisfaction overall. Christ is our great example. Christ did not live for himself, but as Jesus said, I came not to be ministered unto, but rather to minister to others and to give my life a ransom for many. So also we, his followers, we, his imitators, we are not here on earth in order to be served, but rather we are here on earth in order to serve others. But now we go back to the Corinthians. What was the attitude of the church at Corinth and its members in general? Not every one of them, but most of them. Every man for himself was their basic attitude. Every man for himself. They were not team players, but rather they were all trying to get on top of one another like a totem pole, because everybody wanted to be better than everybody else. Then the next description is this, that love is not easily provoked. Love is not easily provoked. So, remember the first one, suffereth long, is patient. So, you know what this is? This is the opposite of love suffereth long. Love is not, to be easily provoked is the opposite of suffering long. The idea is a sudden emotional outburst. When you get needlessly angry at a person, there can be context in life in which anger can be appropriate. It's not the majority of instances, but it can happen. But when you get needlessly, I'm going to talk more about that in a second, but when you get needlessly angry at a person, it's coming from one place, and only one place, love of self. You know what they say, if you find yourself on fire, stop, drop, and roll, right? Isn't that what they say? Stop, drop, and roll. You know, something similar can be said when you're on fire. When the fire of anger ignites, stop, drop, and remember. Stop, get a hold of yourself, get humbled, and see the big picture. Because that's what happens when we jump the gun. Have you ever gotten angry, and then you realize that you ever had that sudden emotional outburst, but then you realized actually you completely were wrong about what was happening? You didn't have the full picture. You didn't really understand. And then, boy, do you ever regret your anger. But even when you do understand exactly what's going on, you still have to see it in the context of the bigger picture. Yes, in this moment, it may feel like this situation you're dealing with is the end of the world, and therefore you should be more angry than you've ever been about anything in your whole life right now at this very moment. It's the worst thing that ever happened to anyone in the history of the world is happening to you right now. Okay? That's how you feel in the moment. But the moment you back up and look at how consequential this really is in the big picture of things, you realize that how measured you actually need to be and how completely out of measure you were or were about to be or could be if you get really, really, really angry over this. So you have to stop, drop, and remember. Stop, drop, and see the big picture. Pause. Hit the pause button. Stop and look at the whole thing. Anger is not always a negative force. It can be used positively, but only when it is used as a result of your love, not in spite of your love, or not because of your love for self. When it's actually truly coming from a place of love for others, rather than coming from a place of love of self. So like, for example, when someone is hurting other people, then yes, that is a reason for you to be angry about what that person is doing. And the same thing can be said when someone who knows better is hurting God's glory or hurting God's work. Getting angry can be because of your love rather than in spite of it. When Christ got angry at the money changers, he was angry at what they were doing to God's glory. That is what made him angry. When Christ got angry at the Pharisees, It was because of how they were misleading the people. But when Christ himself was being beaten, when Christ himself was being mocked, he never got angry at those who were beating him. So you see, he was only ever angry for the sake of others or for the sake of the glory of the Father, never angry for his own sake. Not only does love not get angry, but even when it does, love helps you to not stay angry. Those two parts of that. You might get angry because maybe you forget your love in that moment, but then the question is, will your love at least kick in to where you do not stay angry? And then the next one, love thinketh no evil. Now, the word thinketh comes from the Greek word logizomai. And the first part of that Greek word, logizomai, is the word log, as in a journal, as in a record. So what Paul is saying here, when he says love thinketh no evil, Paul is saying love does not keep a log of evil. Love does not keep a journal of evil. Love does not keep a record of sins. This is talking about bitterness, about holding a grudge against a person who has sinned against you or sinned against others, and never truly forgiving that person. It's literally the opposite spirit of when Jesus said to forgive until 70 times 7. Someone who logizomai evil is someone who hears that. Jesus said to forgive until 70 times 7, 490. And the person says, okay, so-and-so is right now at 307. He's on his way there. Just a few more times, and then I won't have to forgive anymore. I can't wait. Now, this does not mean that we have to be ignorant of someone's record, trust someone who has proven themselves untrustworthy recently. It doesn't mean that we have to do that. That's not what it's about. I go back to what Jesus said, as I so often do. Be ye wise as serpents, while simultaneously being harmless as doves. No, we're not supposed to be stupid and hand over the keys to someone who's betrayed us 100 times last week. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that we love that person, that we hold no hard feelings against that person, that we want to restore a relationship with that person. Allow God to wash away your bitterness and fill you with love for the person who has sinned against you. Because we have to remember that in Christ, God holds nothing against us. Now we see that love and evil will always be mutually exclusive. Meaning, what we've seen is that love will never do evil. But now we take one more step in that direction. Love cannot ever be happy about somebody else's wrongdoing. This is going to get into some sensitive territory. This is going to be something that might not be easy to deal with. But this is the hard truth about love, that as it says next, love rejoiceth not in iniquity. So here's my summary statement. There is literally not any situation in which you have the liberty to be happy about the fact that somebody else did something wrong. Can you have a situation in which somebody did something wrong and the net effect of it is that good happened? Perhaps so. But that doesn't change the fact at all that you do not ever have the liberty to literally be glad that somebody else did something bad. There are times in life in which we might directly benefit from somebody else's sin. And there are times in life in which somebody else is happy about something that we know to be sinful. And so the temptation for us to be happy about somebody else's sin is something that is very real. But can that happiness ever coexist with genuine love? And the answer to that is no. No, it cannot. So here's just a few examples. You have a person at work who's a jerk. You have a person at your place of work that is a jerk. Nobody likes him. He makes every day so much harder. And then one day, he does something truly bad. He does something objectively terrible, and he's fired for that objectively horrible thing that he did. And now your life is easier, right? Now your life is happier because you don't have to deal with that jerk at work anymore, right? And so, how easy is it for you to be happy that that person did something bad? So remember, you don't ever get to literally be happy that somebody did something bad. Let's say somebody at work does a terrible thing. As a result, they're fired. And as a result, you get that person's job. You get a promotion. You get paid more. Ooh, boy, that sure would be tempting to be happy. Thank you for being caught stealing. I really appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. It's so easy to do that, but that's hatred for that person. It doesn't matter what effect it had on you. That is hatred for that person. Politics. When it comes to politics, it's easy to want some politician on the other side to do something terrible. Because if someone on the other side of the aisle does something truly terrible, then as a result, the person you want to win ends up winning the election because the other person did something terrible. And so it's so easy to want somebody to do something bad because it ends up equaling a political victory, right? But it doesn't matter if even the end result ends up being a net positive for the country because a better person got elected because somebody else was caught committing adultery or committing a crime or lying or doing whatever. You don't ever have the liberty to literally be happy that somebody did something bad. Gossip. Let's talk about gossip. When you are gossiping, did you hear about the bad things going on? Did you hear what so-and-so is up to? Putting aside the issue of truthfulness for a moment, even if it's true, what are you doing? You're enjoying the juice. You're enjoying how juicy the gossip is. You're getting your kicks out of it. You are rejoicing in iniquity. That's exactly what you're doing. You're taking pleasure in the bad thing that somebody else is doing because you get to talk about it. I suppose that there may be, I doubt this happens very often, but I could imagine that you have two Christians, all in all, God-fearing people. Their marriage is, rocky. Their marriage is not going well. And boy, it would be so easy to just give up on this marriage and get a divorce. But no one's ever actually done something wrong that would justify a divorce. There hasn't been adultery or anything like that. And some part of you would actually like it if the other person would just do something truly objectively terrible so that you would have an excuse to just get out of it. See, there is no situation in all of life in which we get to literally hope that somebody does something wrong, or be glad that somebody did something wrong, no matter how easier it might make your life, or no matter what it might end up bringing your way or anyone else's way. We do not get to ever rejoice in iniquity. To be happy for somebody else's sin is to hate them. And that is true even when that person thinks that they are very happy. So, of course, one of the most difficult situations a Christian might find themselves in is when a loved one has decided they are going to embrace the homosexual lifestyle, or they going to embrace the transgender lifestyle, and they say to you, I am happy now. Can't you just be happy for me? But love is incapable of being happy over somebody else's decision to do that which is wrong. Love and truth are not ever at odds with each other. Even if there are times in life in which it may feel that way, feelings are not reality. Truth is the reality. And Satan is able to masquerade selfishness to make selfishness look like love. We fool ourselves into thinking we're acting out of love by blessing somebody else's sinful actions. But love will speak the truth even at the cost of being rejected. Now, love will speak the truth in the right way and at the right time and in the right place and to the right degree and all of that. But it doesn't change the fact that love will speak the truth and will do so at the cost of being rejected. It's like a doctor saying, I loved the person too much to tell him he had cancer. That's not love. That would be the doctor's love of self rather than the doctor's love of the patient. What does the book of Proverbs say? It says that he that spareth the rod, and I'm not talking about literal rotting here, but I'm applying a principle, okay? Principle is the point. He that spareth the rod hateth the son. So I know that in sparing your son from discipline, it feels like you're doing so out of love, but in reality, it is hatred of the son because you are lacking love for the son, because you love yourself and ease and comfort and happiness for yourself more than you love that which is good for the son. Now, some Christians do a good job of never rejoicing in iniquity, but now we come to the other side of the coin. Love rejoiceth in the truth. There are some Christians who do a wonderful job of hating sin, but when good things are happening, they're not so happy about it. Their happiness over righteousness doesn't match their hatred of sin. You have to have both. Because, you see, the reason why we hate sin is because we love righteousness. The reason why we hate the darkness is because we love the light. So you have to have the other side of this. Love rejoiceth in the truth. John wrote, I have no greater joy than to know that my children walk in truth. So, what makes you the happiest for somebody else? So, your kids. You probably love your kids more than you love anyone else in the whole wide world. So therefore, the way you love your kids is really a model for how you love everybody. It sets a template for how you love everybody else. So what makes you the happiest for your children? Is that which makes you the happiest for your children their earthly success, their social status, their health, their wealth? Obviously, these things are nice. But is that what makes you the happiest for your children? Because you see, many parents put more of a priority on the professional success of their children than they do on giving them a strong spiritual foundation. And that is proven by the fact that they would rather send their children to institutions that will ensure their children's worldly success, even if it comes at the expense of their Christian faith. If you are more interested in people's spiritual state than you are in their earthly state, that is because you truly love them with the proper love that's in the light of the truth of God. So could it be that you lack love if you're more concerned about earthly things for people than you are about spiritual things for people? Christ did not die for the health and wealth gospel. He didn't die for the health and wealth gospel. If you love other people, you are going to be more interested in their spirituality. You'll be more interested in their salvation. If you love them, then that is what you're going to rejoice for. And if that's not the thing you most rejoice in for them, it's because you lack love for them. Now we see the final four colors of the love rainbow. And in these final four colors, all four, see, first we see the scope of love, because all four of these things include the same two words: all things. All things. So love is measured by the scope of what you will bear, what you will believe, how you will hope, or what you will endure. Meaning the scope of what you're willing to bear, believe, hope for, or endure is only limited by your lack of love. So number one, love bears all things. Now, what does that mean? It means to cover up or protect someone from pain or embarrassment. To cover up or protect someone from pain or embarrassment. So, I'll give you one quick illustration of this. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. When Ham found his father drunk and naked in the tent, what did Ham do? Ham went and mocked his father. Ha ha, everybody come look at this. That's what Ham did. What did Shem and Japheth do? The Bible tells us that they picked up a blanket, a garment, cloth, linen, and it specifically says that they backed up into the tent with it and covered their father's shame. Why does it say that? Why does the Bible, see, no little detail in the Bible is there for no reason. Every detail in the Bible. Why does it say they backed into the tent? They could have easily looked on him, but they didn't. They did everything in their power to protect their father's dignity. It doesn't matter. You could say he deserved it. He messed up. He's doing the bad thing. That's not the attitude of love. The attitude of love doesn't milk something for all it's worth. The attitude of love is that if you're able to protect and cover up someone else's embarrassment, if you're able to protect their dignity, then that is what you do. So again, I go to gossip. Gossip is the complete opposite of this. Now, that doesn't mean that we ever protect someone from or cover up a truth that a person needs to hear. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that we protect the person. How quick are we to cover up somebody else's faults? Number two, believes all things. So, after it forgives, it then believes the best about the person. That's what it means. Once we forgive a person, after that, not only do we forgive them, but we tend to believe the best about them. It means that love is not suspicious or cynical, is what it means. Love sees the best in people. Rose-colored glasses. That's what it means. It means that love looks at other people through rose-colored glasses. So what's the opposite of that? For someone to say, boy, that sounds like so-and-so, all right. Boy, that really sounds like something so-and-so would do. Love sees people as innocent until proven guilty. Love has a desire to see the best qualities or motives in a person. Love sees the good, not just the bad. It's not talking about ignorance. It's not talking about ignorance. We're not ignorant of somebody's faults. But it means that we reluctantly talk about their faults because we try to see the best in people. Love will want to thank God for all that is good in a person, not solely think about somebody's faults. Even though love will not be ignorant, love will be extremely gracious. Love will prefer to trust a person rather than not to. The Pharisees believed the worst in everyone that they possibly could, including Jesus. They cared only about the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. I'm reminded about a verse from Proverbs where Solomon wrote this: "Despise not the one who steals because he is hungry." Despise not the one who, he's a thief. He stole. You're right. And that's crime. That's a crime. That is terrible. But is that all there is about that person? That he stole something? Is that the end all be all? Is that all the person is? Stand back and look at the big picture. Look at the full context. Look at all that this person is. See even that terrible crime in its context. And he'll seem a little bit more human and a little bit less like a demon. Realize he was stealing, not justified, not right. But you see the situation that he was in. Maybe you can sympathize a little bit with him. Maybe you can understand him a little bit. Love wants to see the best in people rather than always only ever being interested in the bad in people. Number 3, love hopes all things. Even when belief in someone's goodness has been shattered, love still hopes. You know? That's the truth. Someone has let you down over and over again. You're tempted to believe there is no good in that person. Love is a dreamer. Love is a dreamer. Love says, I've got a dream. I dream that one day that person's going to turn around. I truly believe God could save them. Love refuses to see failure as being final. Like Peter's failure was pretty bad. But Peter's failure was not the end of his story. Then number 4, endures all things. Love endures all things. Stephen, the first known as the first deacon, the first Christian martyr, he lovingly endured all the ridicule and hurt and loved and prayed for the very people who were killing him. Love forgives. Love seeks salvation for even the very worst of offenses that have been done unto it. Jesus Christ endured the cross, and he continues to endure rejection without retaliation. Every day, Jesus in heaven continues to endure being rejected and mocked by many on the earth. He could retaliate with fire out of heaven, and yet Jesus does not do so, but shows them mercy and gives them more time to be saved. When love is finished protecting, it believes. When it's finished believing, it hopes. And when it seems hopeless, it still endures. Our God endures you and I. And our God in heaven endures this sinful world around us. What are you willing to endure. Tonight, we have looked at all these colors, all these facets of what love is. Is this your character? Is this your heart? Is this your mindset? Are the things we've talked about tonight the state of your soul, or are they not because you lack love? As we stand to our feet for this hymn of invitation, come forward and kneel at this altar and say, God, give me love that meets these qualities. Give me love